What's up, guys? How are you all tonight? It is Tuesday night, April 16th, 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. on the East Coast. I was laughing because I say every week I need to automate my intro. What you don't see behind the scenes is that I have to click a countdown, then I have to click go live, and you have to click go live twice so that you really go live. And then I have to click, when it gets down to 1, I have to manually click the play the intro movie, the little banana, you know. And if you forget any of those, you're just kind of screwed. And that's kind of what happened. I had the countdown going. I'm bebopping along, and it's a 30-second count. I don't need 30 seconds, so I don't hit live till it's usually at like 10 or 12. But then I forgot. I thought we were already rolling. So then I hit live at like 4 seconds, but because of the lag, by the time I actually was live, I think the countdown was on 2, and then I tried to play the video, and I don't know, maybe there's content there. I don't know. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to make a video that has the countdown, and I just press play and press go live. That's what I'm going to do this week. I've said that, I think, 2 out of the last 3 weeks. So welcome. Thank you for being here. It's been a busy week. And I know that a lot of you all were in Dallas this weekend, much like our guests tonight, Herpin Harbins. That is Alisha and Josh out of Knoxville, Tennessee. There are a lot. I've had a lot of Tennessee people. Let's make sure that little UF banner's flying back there, you know. Anyway, it really has nothing to do with whether they're good or bad people. And it's all the SEC still. I mean, that's still the top of, you know. Anyway, Josh and Alisha from Herpin Harbins will be on tonight. We're going to talk about being a family, multi-generational family of breeders. Want to know this whole, I've never talked to somebody about Hognoses on my show before, believe it or not, and they're everywhere. Every show I get asked, dude, where are the Hognoses at? So I want to learn about some, maybe I need to drink the Hognose. That's a terrible expression. Do you guys know the history of drinking the Kool-Aid? Google it sometime. It's a really horrible thing. So I try not to say drinking the Kool-Aid, but maybe I need to, be baptized in the water. Anyway, we'll talk about that. We'll hear all about Dallas, and then also I want to learn a little bit about or just share some ideas or have a conversation about exotic vets. And full transparency, my experience with exotic vets has not been great, and I think it's because I've been going to the wrong ones, and I want to learn more about that. If you don't know, they have very strong ties to a very well-known exotic vet. So we're going to get into some of that as well tonight too. Some announcements. If you did not see it, I had a great time with Chris Eaton on, I don't even know the name of the show anymore. I think it's rebranded, but Snakes and the Fat Man. It was number 115. I guess that's still the same show. Anyway, it was good fun. We geeked out a little bit over guitars, rock and roll, a little bit of business, a little bit of reptiles. It was just kind of cool. And it's cool. It's cool that he and I could both be ourselves in the same place. And I really thoroughly, genuinely enjoyed it. So I appreciate it. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. It was a long show. I thought it was pretty good. So thanks for checking it out. I didn't get to see all the chat. It's hard when you're doing stuff live, trying to engage the camera. But good evening to everybody. Thank y'all for being here. Some new faces. Cool. If you haven't been here, thank you. And, maybe you hit a little like, a little subscribe, all that kind of stuff. We'll see. Rick and Ken, thanks for the kind words on the show. And go check it out. I had a really good time. It's a different show. We didn't spend a whole lot of time on reptiles, a little bit on business, and then it really was just kind of felt like a fun hangout. So thanks to Chris for having me on. Appreciate the hospitality as always. Next week on the show, speaking of Dallas NARBC, if you've ever been to any NARBC show or seen any of their content, a woman named Vanessa Conquest is who handles all of their social media. Vanessa is going to be my guest on the show next week. So we'll talk media, we'll talk branding, advertising, we'll talk behind the scenes NARBC shows. And so there should be some really strong content there, especially if you are either follow any of that or are creating any content. So we'll pick her brain on that. Minnesota show was Sunday, and I still mix up the word. I know the difference. I'm clear on the difference. I still mix up the words Minnesota and Minneapolis. The Minneapolis, Minnesota show was on Sunday, and everything I say in the next however long this little segment is, I'm saying out of gratitude and appreciation and thanks and a little bit of awe, to be honest, as well, too. Sunday was my best show that I've ever had financially on a spreadsheet. Not, I built my brand. I met a lot of people. I hopefully I did all that too, but I made better money than I've ever made. And first I bring that up because I'm kind of transparent and I'm happy and I'm fulfilled. And I've always tried to share the tough times as well. If I share the $0 shows and I got the thick enough skin to do that, then I feel okay sharing that I did very well. And I'm proud of that. And I don't think it's any secret that I work hard at what I do. So that's cool. But here's what I haven't shared very much or very publicly. In my career and I still have a toe in this world. I still consult in food and beverage hospitality. I worked for the PGA Tour for a long time, running the hospitality at their tournaments, which is a massive operation. We could have 11 or 12 dining areas going at one time. And that's just inside the clubhouse. You got to feed the press, the caddies, you got to feed the players. Then there's a separate room for the players and their families. That's before you get to all the spectators, the different VIP levels of tickets. Are you VIP 1, VIP 2? Are you one of the sponsors? Blah, 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 blah. That's the stuff that I did. Well, I still have colleagues. And in that world, we usually bring in, you have your core people that work there. And then you have your not your frontline temp staff. You have like leadership staff that you bring in. And I was recruited to come work the Masters in that capacity, in a leadership capacity in the hospitality service areas of the clubhouse at the Masters. And I looked on the calendar, and I had a show in Des Moines and a show in Minneapolis that I would have had to miss. And I'd worked so hard in this region and I didn't want to go backwards. And those have been great shows, and credit to Cold Blooded Expos. They put on a great expo. That's Jason and his crew. And I said, you know what? I got too much momentum going. I'm not going to give it up. And that's just what it is. And I just stuck with my gut and my conviction. And not only did I have a good show, but between Des Moines and the Minneapolis show, I made more than the Masters was going to pay me to come do a 10-day commitment there, a few days before, one day after getting back in shape. And so for that, I'm saying quite honestly and quite sincerely, thank you to everybody that has supported me. That doesn't matter if you bought a snake this weekend or not. Just giving my brand a platform, being engaged, supporting me, keeping me going so that I keep coming back to this. The sponsors that have helped me out along the way to make it worthwhile. Like, what a notch. Like, it doesn't mean I've made it. It doesn't mean I'm rich. It doesn't mean any of that, but it means that there was just another bit of validation and fulfillment on it. So thank you is what I'm saying. I really, really appreciate it. And thanks for bearing with me, because I know some of that's really cheesy. Like, oh, thank you. I had a great weekend, blah, blah, blah. I really did. I'm really, really thankful. And truly, most of y'all in the audience have helped me in some way or another. And so thanks is what I'm saying. Enough of that. We will move on. Speaking of Dallas, I hope everybody got home safe. I don't want to put it out there that it was a good or a bad show. I haven't heard a whole lot of excitement. I did hear from one breeder that said he had a really, really great show. I've heard from others that weren't as happy about it. So if you went and you have some input, let me know. I know that Jessica vended, and I trust that we'll hear about that on the Holdback Rack podcast. So anyhow, let me know and it's, I don't know, like I sort of want dirt, but I also sort of want to know what's going on in the marketplace. And plus that was a new venue, a lot of changes, and NARBC is important. Those are important shows. So I'm curious that way. One last announcement. I will be, gosh, not this weekend, like 10 days, I will be at the All American Reptile and Plant Expo in Denver. I think it's actually in Castle Rock, Colorado, but I'll be flying into Denver. I'm not vending. I'm going to go. I do want to do some filming. I do want to work on some media, and I will be either at the REDLINE booth or out and about related to the REDLINE booth. So doing a little work with the sponsor that weekend. And look, twist my arm, Colorado in the springtime. Yeah, I'll go. I'll be there. So hope to see y'all there, and we'll hang out and have a good time. Herpin Harbins. I'd seen their name, and it sounds really cheesy. I'd seen their picture and their smiles around. Like, they just seem like vibrant people that I want to hang out with, which usually works out pretty well, to be honest with you. So I'd seen them around, but I was on, I think I was just chatting. No, maybe I was on Jessica's show. I think I was on Jessica's show, and Alisha was chatting, Alisha from Herpin Harbins. And I'd had at the time, I didn't know how rough it was, but a challenging time at the vet. And Alisha chimed in, and I was like, well, I don't know Alisha, but she seems to know what she's talking about. And Jessica said, well, yeah, she's a real great asset when it comes to exotic vet stuff. And the help and the concern and the offer for help was really, really genuine. And I like when good people are out there. And so I started digging a little bit, and I was like, man, I want to hang out with these people. So they're here tonight. That's what we made work. And they were kind enough to come join me on the show and you all on the audience. So if you would, you put that up since okay. All right. I just see now. All right. Well, we'll see all right. They're getting the chuckles. Fair enough. That's fair play. I mean, you're in my house, but hey, that's fine. That's fair. All the way from Knoxville, Tennessee, please welcome for the very first time to the Proper Royal stage, Alisha and Josh Herpin Harbins. How are you tonight?
Hey,
Go
guys.
That flag wasn't there when we were on earlier, right?
That was a strategic plan. We had to deploy that while you were talking.
The whole room may not be UT orange.
It looks oranger than it was. Did you put that on the back wall too in the meantime?
Yeah, well, the color is UT orange. We actually matched it to the when we redid the room. So
yeah, we both met at so that's kind of a common thread for us. We bleed orange.
Okay. Well, I can respect staying true to your school.
Yeah.
And secret admission, guilty pleasure, best Dolly Parton song ever is Rocky Top. It's good. I actually learned it on guitar and enjoy playing it. Cool. I don't tell many people that, but I do. I enjoy it. So
100,000 people sing along with it at Neyland Stadium.
Oh, geez. Yeah. You know what? Do you guys remember that time that Peyton beat the Gators?
Oh, yeah.
No, he didn't. I don't remember it either because it never happened.
Man, you're going way back.
I know. Well, those were my days. That was my pride. I was like, yeah, okay, I got it. How are y'all tonight? You must be exhausted. You did Dallas all weekend, 2-day trip home.
Yeah, it was a good trip home, and it was a busy weekend, and we had our best show that we've ever had.
Okay, good for you.
Probably networking and financially and number of snake smooths. So just, all of the positives. And we had never been to Arlington, so we didn't really know, the comparison situation. We talked to several people that were purchasing on comparing on the other side of the table, and they're like, we don't care where it is. We just want to go to the Reptile show. And so I think hearing that made us feel a little bit better. And the venue was huge. It was a very large building. And, there was a little confusion the first day when setting up tables, but they got it all situated and everybody seemed to be happy.
I don't think the facility put tables out where they were supposed to.
Yeah.
And so they had to go around and kind of reshuffle everybody.
Yeah.
But that's any kind of show. It doesn't matter if it's cars or guitar show, or whatever, snake show. It's like you're just always going to have some confusion.
Yeah, on a much smaller scale. Actually, Rick, I think, is in the audience. I was talking to him. It's a toss-up every show. I mean, it's a toss-up whether you're going to get a 6-foot 30-inch table, an 8-foot 30-inch table, or a 6-foot classroom 18-inch table. And I don't carry all 3 different sets of tablecloths. Like, you got to make it work. And then it sounds silly, but you guys know, the 8-foot real estate fits the display cases perfectly. You take it down to 6 foot and you have X number of display cases. Suddenly you're shuffling things. Or if you get a 24-inch table versus a 30-inch one, you can't do 3 tiers high on your ARS display, you know? So, and then coming from a wedding and event planning background, yeah, you give anybody a 400 table map, there's gonna be some issues.
Get messed up.
Yeah.
Get messed up. But I mean, they still had it separated like in groups with like curtains, so the sound wasn't loud in there. It's a big building, so you get worried about all that talking. But they still had the curtains up and everything, and little areas. Like we were kind of in a booth area with his dad, and so there was a little bit more table in that area. But we had a lot of traffic, and being, you know, not popular breeders or anything, we did well. And so it probably leaned a little bit more pet heavy than I think a lot of people would have wanted it to be. There was still high end stuff moving, but you know, obviously it's not Tinley. You're not going to, it's not to that level with the ball pythons, especially, but I felt like we knew a lot of people that moved a lot of animals. So.
Yeah. Did your, if you care to share, maybe not the dollar amount, but the numbers, did your sales lean ball pythons or hognoses? And what were your offerings?
Yeah, hognose and corn snakes, actually. So out of the numbers we took basically 50% of our hognose sold, 50% of our corn snakes sold, and 10% of our ball python sold.
And what was that? What was that mix of like total sales? Did that translate to total sales too?
Yeah, nine hognose, 12 corn snakes, and 4 ball pythons.
Do your and I don't know them. I don't know the market on hognoses whatsoever. In my mind, corn snakes are cheaper than ball pythons in general.
Well, we do have palmetto corn snakes that run in the mid 300s.
Okay.
So we sold
almost sold out of those.
Almost sold out of those.
Hey, there you go.
So
okay.
Yeah, they do pretty good. I mean, we do have low end corn snakes too. But you know, we sold a DG in our ball python group, really pretty one too. Probably should have kept her, but we didn't need to. But then we sold some like pet level ball pythons, like banana stuff and things like that. And
that's a pretty good mix if you're selling a DG. I mean, I know they've come way down in price, but still, that's a pretty good mix.
And it was to another breeder, so I was happy that it was a breeder coming and buying from us. And then our little bit more mid to higher end hognose actually went to ball python breeders that are getting into the hognose, and they wanted, you know, a little bit mid-level breedable stuff. And and then we sold quite a few pet, you know, hognose also. But it was a whole range because there were people from each group. We had animals going to breeders and we had animals going to pet homes, and so, which is kind of what we want. We want to do a mix of that. Yeah, well, yeah, I would think that's the whole point of having a variety of species, is to have a little bit of that sort of hedge against any great loss. And maybe
I was gonna say, we enjoy all 3 species. We're not trying to game the market and just try to cover all of our bases. That was one of Alisha's first snakes, was a corn snake. We've still got that guy. He's
cool.
29 years old. Yeah.
29. That's a pretty good run for some humans, much less a corn snake.
Yeah, exactly. He's got cataracts. You know, I went and fed him earlier, and I have to put the frozen thawed right up to his face. And he's like, "Oh, there it is," and he just snatches it up and wraps it up every time. But that was my first species. So
me and her grew up about 10 minutes away from each other, but we hated each other's high schools. We were rival high schools.
Yeah.
So we didn't start dating until we met in college. And when I went to her place, she had a pet albino corn snake, and I'm like, where'd you get an albino corn snake? Because I know a guy's dad that raised albino corns. And
my mom actually bought my corn snake from Tom's collection.
No kidding, really?
Yeah, so Tom actually produced my corn snake, and I had him 7 years before Josh and I met, and I still have him. So
was that all in Knoxville?
No, that was in Middle Tennessee. We both grew up in a Middle Tennessee area, kind of in between Nashville and Chattanooga. I grew up in Tullahoma, and he grew up in Manchester. And Tom and Sarah owned a clinic in Manchester for decades. And my mom actually was a groomer / receptionist / assistant in the neighboring town at a veterinary clinic. And so a lot of the exotic stuff went over there. And my sister got an iguana when we were, when I guess I was in high school. And so she would take it to Tom. And so I never met them. And then I remember when I met Josh, my freshman year in veterinary school, I said, why didn't you tell me that Dr. Harbin had such a hot looking son? And Mom, it's like, I didn't think it would matter.
So I picked a good one.
Yeah.
She's not half bad either.
No, this is working out all right. It seems like those are,
it's a funny connection though.
Yeah. When the right, what do they say? When the right fit or the stars align, like that's a good stars aligning, you know?
Definitely.
I don't necessarily know that there's like only one person and all the other 8 billion out there, but maybe there is. But even when you find the one that you can put up with for the rest of your life out of the 8 billion out there, it's pretty good too, you know? So that's really cool. You guys, it sounds like you checked a lot of boxes there. It was pretty good.
We didn't get into breeding snakes though till about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Prior to that, we showed dogs. I say we, it's mostly her. I just hauled stuff around.
Yeah. But and that's what I grew up in, was the dog show world, and literally grew up in it. That's all I knew for decades. And
what species was it?
I bred and showed collies mainly. We had fox terriers also, and then I dabbled in Shelties a little bit, and I did a lot of handling for people. So I had side income as far as I would go to the show, I'd do all the grooming, I'd handle the dogs, I'd make money doing that. It just got kind of, it's a different world. That's all I'll say about that. People
ran its course.
It ran its course, I guess. It was time for me to kind of peel out of there. My mom still goes to shows, and you know, I still have a lot of friends and what I consider family in the dog world, but I kind of purposely made myself exit that just for my own mental health. So
I was going to say, I've limited source anecdotal, you know, evidence here, but I've heard it's pretty cutthroat and pretty, maybe cutthroat is even an understatement. And I know the reptile world can be as well, but I have in general found the reptile world relatively healthy or healthy to navigate if I want to, you know.
You have to kind of get yourself into a mess in the reptile world. I feel like there's so many good people, and we've been just so welcomed into the community. I don't know. It is a different world, and I still love a lot of my dog people, but there was a lot of backstabbing kind of stuff. And unfortunately, because I was the kid, everybody knew me, watched me grow up, and they would basically, they put a lot of stuff on me. And I'd be that person that was stuck in the middle between friends and had to hear, and I had to hear so much stuff that I just did not want to know about. And it just got a heavier burden. Yeah. I just didn't want to know. I didn't like drama. I'm like, I don't say how it is.
Yeah, no,
I'd come to her for help.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah. There's times when I'm on other people's shows and I'm like, look, I to be honest, I really don't care. I get on with you both, and I'll step out of the way and you two can have at it. But so from a business standpoint though, what does because I have no idea. Like every dog that I've ever, as an adult, every dog that I've ever had really has been because of my wife. But we've always, you know, just go down to the shelter and we find a dog that needs a home kind of deal. So what does, say, a collie or you know, I know that what are these Frenchies? They're so popular right now.
That's a different level right there. You start getting into certain breeds that are just very expensive, even as pet animals. Yeah, I know people that make livings off of having these dogs, but the people that probably make the most money in the dog show world are the dog handlers. And so they are paid thousands and thousands of dollars to travel around and go to the dog shows, basically to win with those dogs. And then the breeders, ultimately, you want to have a stud dog that is a hybrid.
Oh, just dog. To get the pedigree, and then you can charge for the pedigree.
Because, you know, you ship sperm all over the place. I mean, it's not like a breed.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm probably more qualified to call myself a reproduction vet. I do canine reproduction probably about 70% of my day at work some days. And so when you start talking about some of these dogs that are being shipped around, their sperm gets shipped. I mean, I've got a client that he is in millions of dollars as far as
Wow.
on some of his stud dogs. And so that's where the money comes from. Now,
Yeah.
I did it enough that the handling covered my expenses so I could go to the dog shows and still show my dogs and basically go for free. I never
Mhm.
made it. Well, I was a veterinarian, so I didn't do it all the time. I did it just enough to kind of help other people and then make some money to support my habit. But it essentially was like a money dumpster. Like I'd have been better off just setting my money on fire, because I was not going to be that person that was going to be a puppy miller and like push out puppies and push out, I wasn't going to stud my dog out to everybody on earth, because it never fails. You're still breeding to that female, and they're going to blame the stud dog for everything that went wrong with that litter. So it always blew my mind. But it's a different world, and people do make a living off of it. It's just most of the time it's a heavy financial hobby. So it's a lot of travel.
So
And
you would have to make the money as like distributing the stud sperm versus because the people on the front end of it, we're going to have 7 females, and then what do you get? I don't know, 5 or 8 a litter if you're lucky. So then you get 35 a year. Like that's less than the number of racks we see in your screen right there.
Exactly. Well, and you have to also think, okay, comparing like dogs, buying a dog. If you go buy a purebred dog, at least if you want to do it reputably, you want to see all the paperwork. You want to see all the health testing on all those dogs. You possibly are helping pay for a C-section that was done on that French bulldog, because those almost always need C-sections. There's a lot more background financial obligations with puppies getting vaccines, all the health checks that have to happen. So when you sell a snake, obviously you want to promote health, but we're not doing DNA testing on all these to figure out if they have some kind of weird disease. If you start looking at some of these dogs with all of their genetic testings, it's, thousands of dollars of genetic testing before they're ever bred. And so
what is like a decent, not like, the highest pedigree ever, but what's a French, like, I don't even know. What's a French you're going to run me if I want to go get one?
A pet French bulldog from like pet breeders. And I don't want to be sounding like weird, but the ones that are not in conformation are probably about $2,500. If you get into the show world, you're probably around AKC level, you're 4,500 plus. And then if some of these specialty Frenchies that are being made, I know I've got a couple of clients that have bought $15,000 French bulldogs.
I see. Okay, so you can run the same gamut that you can,
you can kind of thing, just color variations and kind of, Then we also work with a lot of hunting dogs, and those hunting dogs, they're tens of thousands of dollars as far as value. So,
but does that come with training? Does that include the training usually?
Basically the training and how frequently they've won like hunting trials and those kind of things that puts that dog higher up, and they're more likely to have the instinct passed on to their puppies. So their puppies are at higher values and those kind of things.
They've got a performance pedigree.
Yeah. Well, okay. Interesting. I can be, unlike a hunting dog, but like my dog, I could be distracted by every squirrel that runs by. That was, thank you for humoring me on that. I'll try and steer it back to the world that everybody came to here. So, Josh, tell me about your experience. So your dad, for everybody that hasn't connected the dots, it's your dad is Tom Harbin, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And so you grew up, was the animal, was the veterinary, full transparency. My grandfather was a vet in Lewiston, Maine. And before that, he was a livestock vet in Canada. But so he always called his facility the animal hospital, and the animal hospital was connected to the house. So I can remember, like, hey, you're eating breakfast, and then, you walk out and there's they're doing the snip on a Great Dane or whatever. It's just a morning at Nana and Graham's house. Was your father's facility there at the house? Was it a separate building? Like how around it were you growing up?
It was both. When I was young, we had an apartment above the clinic, and so I grew up in a clinic essentially. I helped out in the kennels. I would help hold animals for Dad when I was big enough to do that. I helped him in surgery. we had the rat room behind the clinic out in the storage bay, and I helped raise all the rats.
So he was breeding then. Yeah. What was the overlap of the clinic and breeding? Just constant?
When did he get into that? He didn't get into that until, I want to say, I was probably 7 or 8 when I remember seeing snake racks. And it was when we lived above the clinic.
That's pretty early then. Yeah.
Yeah, he had like the melamine wood rack, and the
weighed 7,000 pounds.
He did woodwork. He made everything he needed pretty much back then. So we were into the snakes about as long as I can remember.
I think when we started dating, he did corns, because that's where my corn came from, but he was doing Hondurans at that point, wasn't he?
Oh, he's done everything.
All Brazilian
milk snakes, rainbow boas. We had some tree pythons for a minute, Burmese. So the other thing we did that was cool growing up is we'd go to the local elementary schools and do a snake show. And so we would take the corn snake for everybody to hold, and then something, the pretty things. We'd only take 3 or 4, but the 14-foot Burmese was always the big ooh and ah at the end. And one horror story for me was when I was in middle school, we had the Burmese in a big duffel bag, and it took me and him to carry the thing. And so Dad told the crowd, like, hey, don't scream or make a loud noise whenever we pull this thing out. You might startle the snake. Well, of course, when he pulled it out, everybody just screamed. It was just a lot of squeals. This snake defecated all over me because I had I didn't have a change of clothes. I didn't have anything.
Oh no.
And Dad just looked at me and goes, sorry, son.
It's the way it is.
So I think he called Mom, and Mom brought me some clothes, but for 30 minutes or longer, I had to sit there and smell like snake stuff.
Yeah. I've at some shows I've seen the retic treatment. I can only imagine the berm treatment has to be solid that way. Yeah. Quick side note for Jessica's inquiry. Yeah, I have Canadian citizenship as well. So my mother was born in Canada, and my parents divorced, and my dad lived in Florida, and my mother lived in Maine. And then my grandparents, after they closed the animal hospital and retired, they moved back to New Brunswick. So I spent my summers in New Brunswick growing up as well. Cool. Yeah. I don't know. Everybody's intrigued by that. There's a really thin line through some pine trees that is, the difference between Canada and the United States up there. So it's pretty close. So what was it for your dad? Was it always a hobby on the breeding snakes? Was it seen as a side hustle? Was it seen as just two parallel businesses? How did he see it?
It started off hobby and then became side business. And now that after he sold his clinic, he was able to rely more on the snakes as just fun money, I guess.
Yeah.
He's going to breed snakes whether he is making money or not. He just enjoys the chase.
I was going to say, at some point, you've had a career, you get to a certain stage in life, you could do what you want or not do whatever you want. So, I'm assuming he's doing it I'm sure he enjoys the payday,
he just loves, if you talk to him, I don't know anybody that has any more passion than he does for the reptiles, and probably more than anything, just educating people on whatever, whatever aspect of it that you want. He gets into it with me, and him get in conversations, and his mom and
I just walk away. They just walk away. They look like a tire.
Right.
It's got vet medicine in there. It's got genetics. Like, I'm out. I'm gonna go fix something for Mom.
One of my distinct memories growing up, Josh, and this is really, really awkward to say out loud, but maybe there's another person that can empathize. I have a distinct memory of the smell of ether. They don't still use ether. That's not what you still use, is it? Right on the dot. Did you have that growing up though? Do you remember that smell?
Isoflurane. I remember that stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah, the can with the towel in it, and just snip right over the nozzle, man. What?
Yeah, I remember Dad had the X-ray room with like the double cinder wall.
Dip everything.
Yeah, had to develop his own film. He would let me come in the development room with him, but I couldn't be in the X-ray room with him. He was trying to protect me.
Huh.
And of course, the vet that my mom worked for, I was in the middle of all of the stuff. I was reading fecals when I was 7. I grew up at that clinic, and he would let me. help with surgery. I wasn't doing anything critical.
Count
pills. I would, clean syringes. That's back when you cleaned syringes and reused them.
Yeah, right.
Mostly a lot of poop cleaning.
A lot of poop cleaning.
A lot of cage cleaning.
I was kennel help. I know he was kennel help.
Yeah, we were grunts.
Yeah. No, by the time I was, well, like I said, I only spent my summers up there. And then by the time I was old enough to actually like physically do anything, they had retired. I think by the time I was 10, they had retired, and they moved back up to New Brunswick. So they were out at that point. But yeah, I have some specific really vivid memories from Gramps' animal hospital. Anyway, so then how did you not start breeding until only like 5 years ago? I mean, not to make a joke, but I mean, we're talking about pedigree here. Like, you missed out on a lot of time, right?
I think, well, I felt like to a certain degree, I don't think either one of us were like mentally like in it at that point. We actually did have some corn snakes about, I don't know, it's about 16, 17 years ago. Mm-hmm. But then we didn't realize after we bred them, there were laws in the state, and we basically did it, and so we ended up giving them all to somebody, and they they had their own license and stuff. And so he was, I was
not to self-incriminate, but hypothetically, what might have someone done that wasn't approved of in Tennessee in those days?
Propagation is still a thing that has to happen. So if we were going to sell those snakes, we have to have a license to sell them. And so for us to even give them away was technically not right either. And at that point, I think there may have been, the laws have changed a little bit. At that point, I think we were supposed to have a possession permit also. And we didn't have that. I had that snake forever. I was
going to say for just any corn snake.
That was back. Yeah. That was back before, now you don't have to have a possession permit for a corn snake.
But to sell it, do you?
Yeah, but to sell it, you do. And you do have to have import. So to get snakes in from out of state, you have to have an import license also. But so that along with, I was a veterinarian working a lot. He had been in veterinary school, left veterinary school, and then went into.
Left is a nice way to say it. They kicked me out.
Yeah,
I was struggling.
He was escorted, like it's don't come back kind of thing.
They escort me out.
Yeah, they kind of did.
They cashed the check first, though, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They got the money. But then he went into machining school, so he started becoming a machinist, and then he went and worked on technician, and then he finished up his degree in engineering. And so between him going to school, me working all the time, and doing all the dog stuff, it just didn't click. Like we had so much. I think we had to grow a certain way, and I had to let go of the dog stuff. There is no way on God's green earth I could do what we're doing right now with the snakes and the dog. It's just, it would have been impossible. So there had to be me segregate myself from that. And that just happened a few years ago. And so luckily the snakes kind of picked up some of the loss that I felt from leaving the dog world.
Filling in the gaps. Yeah,
filling in the gaps. The genetics became even more fun because it was more intense, obviously. The breeding aspect of it, the caring for the animals. Obviously we still have our dogs too, but it was like a different process that we got to learn together.
Well, dogs have a standard, like you've got to fit the AKC in this box. Like you're not allowed to deviate. But with these snakes, it's encouraged to deviate. Like find all the morphs.
Go out of that box. Yeah. And it's also encouraged, like as a dog, like people like look at me. I have 18 dogs still. We do. He takes 18 dogs.
Okay.
You're like, holy crap, that's crazy, right? But I don't
know about crazy, but
we have 230 something snakes, and most of these people like laugh at us, like, oh, that's not even a collection. So there's a different level of acceptability with your collection versus your kennel. And I think that's a different aspect that has been really nice, because we could have so many more snakes and it's not shunned. You're not shunned by the community by having that.
No, not at all. And I think what you said, and thanks for sharing that, because it's important. I think life stages really makes a difference. If I'm starting to piece some things together, but if you've had a career, you have a reliable partner. Hopefully we all do. Hopefully our marriages are reliable, but somebody that's going to support you either, you know, whether they're actually in there washing the snakes or just putting up with you having the snakes. But if you can have all of those things in order, and I don't care to get into anybody's finances, but, you know, a little bit of a safety net in the bank where you go, all right, maybe this is the time in the life to start it. It's a little bit easier. I think for me, I found it easier because I look back when I was, you know, I talked about earlier working for the PGA Tour. I look back when I was 28, there was no chance anywhere, no zero iota of a chance I could put any effort into what I have to put into my snakes now. But it was because I was chasing a career. I was building my life. I was, you know, I was able to buy a house, which, you know, thankfully buying a house early in my life was able to, you know, that's paid for itself many times over, and being able to buy other houses and being in a part of that market. So for me, you know, sometimes people are like, well, what do I need to do to get started? And I'm like, I don't know, because you're at a different life stage than I was. And, you know, so when you were telling the story of getting through school, getting your degrees, establishing yourself in these places, I was like, yeah, that's what it took for me as well. And there's, you know, there's other people, I won't call them out specifically, but there's people in the audience, they figured it out when they were in their 20s and they're crushing it now. And I look up to them as mentors, and I don't know, we're the same age or they're a year, I don't know, they're a little bit younger than me, whatever it might be. But I think that life stage question is really important, though.
I think if we had tried to do this 15 years ago when we were dabbling around with the corn snakes, we would have burned ourselves out and maybe had that negative feeling towards the hobby or the, you know, the grind or whatever, because we were doing so many things to just try to get our life together. And and it kind of all really kind of balanced out several years ago. And it's allowed us to do this together too. We both love doing this together. That's cool. That's a huge thing. We each have our own components, you know, that we do a little bit more in, but ultimately I could not do it without him. And I don't think he would want to do it without me. I don't know. Maybe he would, but I don't know. It's just, I think together, it's like the perfect team, honestly.
Yeah. No, there's, you know, Kelly is my wife. She's pretty hands off in the operation, but I do tell people, like, if there's a clutch of eggs on a weekend, I'm out of town at a show, she pulls the eggs. She'll keep an eye on things. And just when I think she's sort of checked out, she'll be like, where's that one snake we had? Isn't this, it was het for something, and it's time this producing. What's it paired to right now? I'm like, cool. That was a year and a half ago, babe. You remember that? Yeah, what's going on here? You know, so she's on it, and I'm totally transparent with her on, obviously. I mean, you have to be transparent with each other on anything in life, but certainly on money in a marriage. So I'm like, look, here's what we made, here's what we're spending, here's the situation of the facility, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. So all stuff that I think through and empathize with. Do you all, when we were talking before the show started, and I said, we'll come back around to that because I was like, I want to have like authentic conversation on the show. Do you find that when you guys are working together, is there like if I was working with somebody in the restaurant and we had a job to get done, it was almost like a race to put like we had to get out of there and get done. Like no lollygag, like get this done kind of deal. Do you find that, or do you work like obviously side by side, but do you go into your own worlds, or how do you divvy stuff up?
So when we're doing
mice,
we look
like a pit crew when we're doing the mice.
And,
it's awesome.
And it is me being a little pushy, okay? Because I just want to get it done. I just want to get this. I want to get this shit done, is what I said to him this morning, because he's going around and getting ready to do something else. He's like, I'm just trying to make our day better. I said, I've got focus. We need to get these rodents done. I just want them done. And so I am kind of pushy through the rodent situation. Now, when it comes to like the feeding and the spot cleaning in the snake room, I can see him kind of in a hurry, but I'm kind of I'm still moving, but I'm like staring at the snake, and I'm like, what am I going to breed this to? Yeah. And so I probably do a little bit more, but I think that helps because that gives him urgency in the rodent room. It gives me urgency in the snake room, and we get all of our tasks done. And then once we both have all our tasks done, we're like, check, and we take a deep breath and everything's good. And so Yeah.
What so from my background, it's food and hospitality, but really food and hospitality is production and people management. So skills, not skills, systems, processes. What do you got? Do you guys have like a checklist every day? Do you use like, I love like efficiency things. So like I use like I have my whole operation programmed on my, you know, iPhone reminders. What do you guys use for along those lines?
We use Husbandry Pro, and
Okay, cool.
has notifications set in there for feedings, because
Smart.
between hatchlings, adults, different species, they're all in different rotations. And so that gives us reminders. Okay, this is the group that we feed today. This is what rodents we need to have ready. Now the rodent operation, we have it down pretty good. Fine.
It's kind of primitive. I just use like tape above each tub and just mark when they have maybe to track if they're being productive or not.
Yeah, but we do it pretty quick. He basically, you know, we put a tub in, we put everybody over, we pull what we need to pull, and he marks, like, he's what holds back which rodents he wants to keep for the next colonies. He does all that figuring, and I'm kind of in the background just kind of helping get tubs ready. And then while he's cleaning tubs that we're wanting to get cleaned, I'm euthanizing the animals in the CO2 tank. I'm splitting up the sizes. We're putting them in the freezer. So we may basically get all the rodents done, all the freezing, all the cleaning, everything taken care of. We do it usually less than 3 hours. And we have rats, ASFs, and I think like 40 colonies of mice now. So
we've learned that both of us simultaneously doing the same task absolutely does not work.
Okay, all right.
Over here while I do thing over
all
here.
separated.
And they stack, and we eventually get all the tasks done.
Yeah, if it makes you feel better, that is Kelly and I to a T. If there's a project at the house, it better get divvied up, because
it has to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to be. And even when we're back here feeding in the room, like I'm like, okay, if you can get the corns done, I'm gonna get the hogs done. Then he can spot clean the ball pythons. I'm cleaning the baby ball pythons. You know, we just kind of, we divvy it up. We're in the same area, but we're not really utilizing the same stuff. So we get it done so much faster.
Yeah. Tell me.
Trying to dial Husbandry Pro up for having help someday. At some point, we're going to have to hire in somebody to help us clean or do things. We're trying to make sure we've got reminders set properly, and we're just trying to tune that in.
I have it, and all transparency, they're different products for different things. I use Clutch for generational snake management, but in Clutch, there's nothing to manage operations. There's no, that's not what it's designed for. And I find, you know, like I say, I use Apple reminders. Is it Yeah, it's on the home screen. I think it's called reminders. It doesn't matter. You know, the alerts and the programming, and you can set it at repeat certain frequency and all that.
Yeah.
And I like that, and I live by it. But to your point there, you have to manage it. You have to keep it up, and you have to keep it dialed in. The second you forget to check something off, it might not reset for the right time, repeat, or you start to go back to bad habits of like, oh yeah, I'll just remember that. No, you won't. Tomorrow you're gonna be like, no, oh shoot, I was gonna. Oh yeah, you didn't put it in reminders. Like I don't know why. Like I find myself like getting cocky, like, okay, I don't have to put that in reminder. Yes, I do.
And dry erase boards and making lists and calendars on the wall. It doesn't work.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah. I do use my feeding is all on spreadsheets. I do track that, and I'd still track that manually. But truly, that goes back to is, again, my days in the kitchen of writing prep sheets and doing inventory on a system of what's on hand, what do I need to order, what's on hand, what do I need to prep, and it's the same thing. And I love
it can do all the things for us.
And see, and then like we get ready to go to the show, and I've already, as they get to the feeding numbers, or when I say, okay, I'm going to sell this one, I just scan that animal, I mark it for sale, I put the price. And so then like when we went to Dallas, I was able to basically check in all my for sales to the Dallas show, had this screen that basically listed out everything I had for sale. I went through the price commerce list. I'm like, okay, I'm going to adjust these a little bit, you know, move some of these prices up, move some of them down, whatever I felt like I needed to do. And then pushed all my labels out. We used the little Dymo labels, pushed them out, and we had all the tags. People could scan the animals while we were at the show. It's just,
nice.
saved so much time.
Yeah. So you print your labels right at the show. I still, full transparency, I still use I still use the chalk markers, you know, I just write it on there. So
well, then we could export the for sale list straight into Square. So whenever somebody wanted an animal, I could just go to the items, poke a button, add a customer.
Yeah, and boom, it's sold. And see, like somebody was asking me about like our DG pairing, and I just said, well, let's look at the picture of the parents, and I just scanned it with the camera on my phone, and it pulled up. It showed all the genetics. It showed all the feedings that animal had, its birthday, and then it had I have the pictures added in there, so the people can just see, oh, those are DGs. You know, that's what she said. And so I think having that Husbandry Pro, being able to show that information kind of sets us apart in a way. And it's so fast for me just to print that out. You know, I don't have to do anything. I just print them out and stick them onto the actual tubs where I want them. Like I can figure out where I want it in the display and go ahead and have it set. And then we load them up the night before and we're gone. So.
Gotcha. Was there anything that either of y'all found in either your previous or current still active careers that overlapped or made, because you sound very, very comfortable with that. I've heard other people's input say, man, that's the only app I've ever paid for that's supposed to make things more efficient. And I spend more time on the app than I did in the first place with the problem I'm trying to solve. So, you know, they're feeling, and that's not that again, I've never used it, and I do understand that sort of management software. And I have a lot of those similar systems on my own style that I've created myself. So I'm not saying, I don't want anybody to take that as a review of Husbandry Pro. It's not. I've never touched the product before, so I don't know that.
I think I'm usually the person that crashes computers and a complete moron when it comes to any kind of programming, or like literally setting this up tonight was all Josh was like, asked me to turn on anything. And so for me to be able to use Husbandry Pro, I don't know how anybody else can, honestly. Now, do we use all of it? Good God, no. There's so much stuff in there that's
what I've heard. I've heard it's just layers upon layers. Yeah.
What they wanted to do is make sure that there was an application and it was adjustable for everybody. So there's a whole area system that I would never use, but these other people use it and they don't use the way I use it. So it's not like Apple. It's not like Clutch. You're not going to just, everything is set up ready for you to go. It is more conformable to like what you want. You can go into the settings and kind of like switch things around. And now I do think it takes a little time to get adjusted to it, like getting your settings that you want done. But like at this point, I did start it when we were very early on. And so we didn't have as many, and I learned it along the way. And so now when Robert shows something new, I'm like, holy cow. Like he did show me this last weekend, how I could integrate the Square directly into Husbandry Pro. And so I'm like, I didn't even realize we had that now. And so he's like, yeah, I haven't released a video yet. And I'm like, well, Josh needs to watch that anyway, because that's his wheelhouse, is the Square components of it. But I think so many people want to use too much of it, or parts that they don't really want to use. I'm like, you don't have to use all that. You just use what you need to use. And we even need to keep up with the rodent supplies, as far as like how much bedding we're using, how much food we're using. It's basically its own, you know.
We've been able to track costs in there for just the rodents, and we're getting the money we put into rodents is about a third of the cost if we were to buy them.
Yeah. But then also, like when I'm thinking, how many pinky mice do I need for the next 3 months? I know what we've got in the freezer. Do I need to go order some to stock up? This is how many I'm going to be using in this time period. So I can go into the system, and it's its own, it's a spreadsheet based thing. It's kind of used into an application now. So
it helps me dial in what rodents I'm pulling. You know, do I have to save up and let them grow up to hoppers, or do I have to go ahead and pull pinkies heavy for a month?
Yeah.
It helps us.
I told somebody one time that I literally I only breed ASFs. Every ASF that I wean, I count, and that's just crazy, Adam. I enjoy it, and I've done 30 years of doing inventory, managing wine cellars. You want to talk about labels and numbers and finding a needle in a haystack. So it's kind of second nature. In the kitchen, you're just constantly counting. So I just count them anyway. But somebody was like, why do you do that? And I'm like, well, literally, how do you know how many you're producing if you don't? And how can you forecast and predict the future? And that is my answer. I'm not saying it has to be anybody else's answer, but do you guys track? How do you track? Do you track what you're freezing? Do you track it when you're weaning? Do you track it when you're feeding? How do you track that?
A little bit of both. So he tracks it. Husbandry Pro is getting ready to come out with a whole rodent system. So it's going to have its own module that's more specific for rodent breeders. And so we're interested to see how they're going to implement that, because it's going to help these ratteries keep up with things. But on his tape label, he keeps up with what's present in the tub. Whenever I freeze something, I have that documented, pushed into Husbandry Pro.
They don't get counted until they get frozen.
Yeah, until they get frozen. And then, of course, when I pull them out of inventory and I feed an animal, when that animal's fed, it automatically populates its feed item and pulls it back out of inventory. Yeah. So it's constantly adjusting our inventory. So we can look at our inventory and say,
oh, hey, nice. Okay.
Yeah, we're really low on hoppers. And then Josh goes, well, man, I don't think we're going to make any hoppers, enough hoppers to compensate for 2 months. We're always kind of looking at things in 2 months. I'm like, okay, then I'm going to make an order, and I order some stuff from Lane's Lab a lot of times, just to back us up. I always want the freezer full. And I want us to have, 2 to 3 months of supply at least. So.
Yeah. Do you, what's the rodent part of the business? Is it any revenue, or is it all for in-house usage?
It's just our stuff. Yeah. I mean,
okay,
I don't,
all in-house.
I don't anticipate us making overstock enough to sell on the side. And now I say that, and we went out and messed with the ASFs a little while ago. I'm like, oh my gosh, we don't even feed that many ASFs, and there are like millions of them out there. So.
I love them. I love those little things, man. Those are little
pinkies.
When the pile of pinkies move and they're like jerking around everywhere.
Oh, so cool. This is really this is really creepy is what this is. Do you remember, like, I think we're all about the same age, but there was what was the cartoon? It was called like DuckTales or something. And Uncle Scrooge, he had his coins and he'd like let them run through his finger. I love picking up the little ASFs and just there's tons of them. They just run. I just like, look at all you little things, all of you little money maker things. So good. Oh my gosh, man, I love them.
When we started kind of looking at the ASFs, we hadn't planned on doing ASFs, but we ended up acquiring some adult ball pythons that were just ASF only. So it's like, I'm not going to work my butt off to change them over. I'm just going to breed stuff. So Josh was like, let's do it. And then I started looking at the newborn pinkies. It's like, Josh, these are small enough that we could feed the corn snake babies and even the hognose babies this. And when you have hognose and corn snakes being produced, I mean, in 2 weeks, we've gone from 0 hognose eggs to 85 in 2 weeks.
Okay.
So
all right.
When you start talking about colubrid breeding season,
that's a whole different.
And so
that changes the math. Yeah. So like mine, and I mean, I have a little bit of, so I really only use the ASFs on my hatchling ball pythons, and I only have ball pythons.
Yeah.
I still get all of mine on frozen thawed rats as fast as possible. Yeah. So, and I don't breed rats. That's a whole different deal. So, mine are really like, okay, how many hoppers do I need? And right now I'm figuring out the math of, does it make sense just to focus on selling hoppers and small ASFs? Or should I hold back? Because I hold back my own for future replacement colonies, and I haven't even filled out all my rack space yet. So I'm still building my own colonies as well. But in my mind, I'm like, all right, because I'm making a little bit right now, and I'm totally covering costs and then saving the price that I was buying, hatchling food for. So I'm way in the black, and I'm loving it right now. But I'm really like trying to figure out the math of like, all right. Anyway, I'm just intrigued by it. It's my new.
I was, being that we've always had basically mice and rats. Do you have problems with those baby hatchlings that you start on ASFs converting to rats, or do they do okay?
I have just about disavowed the notion of at least a small snake getting hooked on an ASF. I have very little experience with mice. I've always tried to stay away from them. People at shows ask me that, how hard is it to switch them over? And I'm like, well, it's tough until it's not. But once they take a frozen thawed, I never give them a live one again. And I say never. Obviously, I would if I needed to, for their health. And they're great. The other thing that I use my ASFs for is stubborn or voracious breeders. If they're like, I fed a breeding mom five ASF shoe on. I was like, I mean, she's at 24 millimeters.
Yeah.
It's time. I'm like, all right, girl, you can have whatever you want. That is not, for the record, that's not my normal practice year round kind of deal. I would never just be like, okay, have 5 on a week. But, in that moment where I have the ultrasound and I'm like, all right, I know it's business time right now. I really like them. But no, to answer your question, so like tonight, actually, I have to catch up feeding. Usually I don't feed on Tuesday nights, but on show weekends I have to, because Sunday nights I usually feed. So tonight I pulled like 5 extra fuzzies more than I think that I need. And I'll just go through and I'll offer everything that's still on live a frozen fuzzy. And if it takes it, I mark it, and it doesn't get ASFs anymore after that. But
cool.
usually every week I pull about 5 extra, and I think I have 65 to 70 in there right now. And then, I've got clutches in the incubator. So I'll have a pretty steady supply of new hatchlings over the next 6 months kind of deal. So I'll pull an extra 5 each week. And usually I'll get 2, 3, or 4. And if you got to feed off a fuzzy to a yearling, sub-adult, you're going to find, you're not going to waste it. Somebody will eat it. So
somebody eat it. Yeah.
That's why we've got a Pac-Man frog. She's our pinky dumpster.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. Jeez. Those things are crazy.
They're weird.
Let's take just a second. It's the top of the hour. We got guys, don't go anywhere. We still got to talk about I got to understand this hognose and ball python thing a little bit, and then something that Josh and Alisha don't know that I'm asking about. They have one thing even better than a LinkTree. They have their own website, and it looks great. And I want to hear the story of their website as well, because that is something I need to get my butt on. But first and foremost, as I said at the beginning of the show, I couldn't do this without the support of a lot of people, audience for sure. But I want to tell you about the wonderful people that support me as well. And truly, I'm very, very proud to be working with each of these individuals or these companies. I think they represent what I'm about. And I'm really, like I say, I'm just so happy and thankful to be surrounded by these folks. So REDLINE shipping, first and foremost. If you're not familiar with REDLINE, you should be. Let me tell you, it was only about a year ago, a little over a year ago, that Robin launched REDLINE shipping. And in that year, they've become the premier reptile shipping company. They've become the standard. And yes, he's very good at marketing, but let me tell you, they're even better at delivering great experiences. So their costs are absolutely competitive, if not aggressive. But it's the service and the customer experience that really makes REDLINE the difference. So go check them out. Use the promo code PROPER5. Similarly, that is Gray Rider, Charlie at Gray Rider Reptiles, shedtesting.com. He saw an opportunity first to develop the shed tests. He is developing shed tests now. Look, I'm not going to break the news. Charlie can announce things on his own, but he's got big news coming. I'm telling you, it's right there. New shed tests are coming, and like the shed tests are coming. So those will be out very shortly. His turnaround time, I just heard last night somebody tell me about, they sent 13 sheds to Charlie and they had the results back in 6 days. Like,
He's so fast.
That's not happening out there. Otherwise, that's Charlie. That's him. He's the one doing it. I'm so happy to be aligned with him. So go check out Charlie at shedtesting.com. Speaking of websites, he's got a new website up, and it'll list all the genes that he can test for. You can call him, talk to him yourself, interact with him yourself. Use the promo code PROPER15. You're going to get 15% off of 2 full orders. No small print. I don't know what caps out an order, but you're going to get 15% off of 2 orders. RGen Reptiles, that is Robbie down in Greer, South Carolina, another wonderful human being. He's working a fairly narrow collection and very, very high-end stuff. DG, Pied, Clown, double, triple combos with dark genes, Blackhead and Stranger. So pretty narrow focus, doing some incredible stuff. DG, Pied, Clown with the dark genes. Go check out Robbie at RGen Reptiles. Portuguese Pythons, Danny and Renee Rocha. Did you guys see Danny and Renee at the Dallas show?
we passed each other. I think they stopped real quick and we saw them in passing. Yeah.
How's the mustache in person?
It's impressive.
It's glorious.
Okay, good. All right. All right, good. I'm glad that is holding true there. It's seriously excellent people also doing some excellent projects. I have a 1.3 pied ultramel project from them. I also know that they just hatched. I don't know if they still have any available, but definitely go check it out if you're interested. Super blackhead ultramels as well. They're doing great stuff with ultramels. And again, just wonderful people, and so happy to be working with them. Trevor at Ball Labs. I'll get to hang out with Trevor, not even 2 weeks, 10 days now out in Castle Rock, Colorado. He's in Aurora, Colorado. He's been keeping ball pythons for about 20 years and breeding them for 15. He's working puzzle, ultramel, clown, VPI axanthic, and tri-stripe combos, as well as he was worried that I would like run people off if I told him this, monsoon, zebra, and sunset projects. If you're out there in Colorado and you're looking for rodents, Trevor also has rodent labs, and he is a licensed rodent purveyor in Colorado. You have to have those licenses there in Colorado. He's one of the few that has that. So go check him out. Last but not least, my Tinley vending partner in crime. The guy's been a mentor to me, and most importantly, a really good friend. Chris at B and S Reptilia. It's called Reptilia because he has a whole variety, a menagerie of species. I know that he tries to acquire at least one new species every year to breed, but along with ball pythons, boa constrictors, locality boas, colubrids, corn snakes, pituophis, if you know what that means. I believe that is bull snakes and pine snakes. He is working with those. He's also the Pennsylvania distributor of the chipper. And even if you're not, that's a cocoa, even if you're not in Pennsylvania and you're interested in the chipper cocoa, give him a call. He'll either point you in the right direction, or I don't know if he's allowed to, but he's been known to ship a little bit old Adam's way, so give him a call. He will help you out, and he's a wonderful person. So thank you to all the sponsors. All of their information can be found down below in the description, so click on that and give them some support. And also down below in the description is the Herpin Harbins webpage. Is it herpinharbins.com?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That's what it should be.
So much easier.
Yeah, that's right down there in the description. What's that?
We were making sure we wanted to get like Facebook, Instagram, website all in one. That's why we settled on Herpin Harbins.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, sorry, my internet went out. I'm back. You're back?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. All right.
You got us. Okay.
I don't know why at the top of the hour it happened last show. If I crap out, just keep it going, keep the thing going. All right. Tell me, what is this Church of the Hognose, man? I always hear about it.
You seem like such a cool guy. I don't know how you're not already in it. I mean,
I only have so many things but all joking aside, like I don't have a strong animal background. So, I mean, really, truly starting from scratch less than 5 years ago, it has been every ounce of my focus and attention to really try and dial, and I won't even say perfect, but dial in ball python. So even now, like getting my footing under me with the ASFs, I'm like, man, I'm still trying to figure out how to be a dad. I don't need another species. Like I still got a 12-year-old I got to figure out what I'm doing with, So no, but tell me about them though. What's the why are they such a hit?
I guess they're just quirky little animals. Well, Snake Discovery pushed it. I mean, you have to think about what Emily and Ed have done as far as just teaching people about reptiles in general, but they've honestly skyrocketed the hognose into the industry. And so
I think it's one of the first cute snakes.
Yeah,
so many of the pythons and other things have that aggressive head, like they're a hunter. Yeah. These little derpy little things, they got a goofy flat nose and big
their eyes are their face is always smiling. They're
Do
very
people want to kiss them? Do they always want to kiss your animals?
People do want to boop them on the nose with their nose, and I'm like, that's a really bad plan because if a thing attaches to your face, we're not getting it off anytime.
That's what I tell like parents. I'm like, hey, and adults. I could see it in their crazy eyes. I'm like, you can't kiss that. If you kiss it, you buy it. That's the rule right there.
Yeah. But
our business cards are thick plastic for that reason. You're supposed to use the business card to like slide up under their nose to pry them off, because we know if they buy one, you're eventually going to get bit.
Yeah,
they're going to be feeding and miss the prey item and hit you instead. That's probably mostly how you'll get bit.
And I think because they do have a less intimidating look, a lot of people are more apt to get them. Like a parent is more apt to get them for a teenager.
Right.
A lot of women like them, and so because they are they're not a big snake. I want my big old snake, like a lot of men have that kind of desire to have some big giant snake. But
I like your man voice.
You like that
I know nothing about a desire for a giant snake.
I think it's something about their cute factor, and they got a good price point for the most part for a pet. They're small. They don't go into large enclosures. You don't have to have anything really large.
You can fit 3 times as many hognoses in the same cubic feet as you can these
ball pythons. And they're very tolerant of temperature fluctuations. They're very tolerant of humidity. They're a little bit on the easier side, at least for me.
Their food items stay small. I mean, a hopper's the biggest meal they'll ever take.
And
you don't have to do the math on the big rodents either on those. Yeah.
All small rodents. And so I think there's a lot of positive factors to it. Now, the area that I think we both have even talked people out of hognose is when they have small children that are wanting to handle something all the time. I'm like, if you're right there helping the kid, that's fine. But if that hognose decides, I'm hungry, this looks good, and they're going to grab onto that little pinky finger, and they're going to town. They don't bite out of fear or aggression. They bite out of, I'm going to eat that. And so a ball python is just going to ball up in a ball. You could have a striking one.
For
the most part,
they're not sit there.
They're just going to sit there. And so a lot of times people will opt to get their kid a corn snake or a ball python because of the less likelihood of an attachment situation. Now, teenage girls, teenage boys, young women, even young men, I mean, they end up kind of going after the hognose, even with the potential of it being one that could latch onto you. And we do teach people whenever they buy them, like how to get them off of you. And but I've never been bitten by one out of fear or any kind of aggressive tendency. It's literally my finger got in the way of the pinky's, handout, or me trying to move it. It just grabbed onto my finger because it wanted to eat. It's purely an eating situation. And so I think they're still an up and coming species. They're still growing. They're not going to be ball python level. I mean, nothing's ever going to get to that level. I mean, it's still 80% of the industry. And so, will it take over 5, maybe 10% of that? Maybe, but I'd love to see it to be, 50-50 or something in that range, but there's still going to be too many people out there that don't want a small snake, don't want a venomous snake. I mean, they're technically, with that rear fang venom, can be problematic to people. And so,
really? Okay.
Yeah. And so I've been bit a lot. I know Tom has been bit quite a few times. He actually gets a local itch and like a little welt kind of area where he gets bit. But what I found is the faster I get them off, the less likely I ever get any kind of irritation anyway. And I've never had a reaction, but we had a customer that had bought a couple from us a while back, and she said it was purely her misgauging the snake. It latched onto her ring finger, and luckily she was a nurse and she had brain cells that knew what to do. She got her ring off of her finger, and her finger swelled up. And so some people do have reaction. Yeah, what happened is she couldn't get him off because it was stuck on her finger where she could not peel him off right. So she was running around the house trying to find her husband. And by the time she peeled him off, it had been like 2 minutes of basically him gnawing on her and releasing all that saliva.
So she got a heavy dose.
She got a heavy dose of it. And so that's when people have reactions to him, is they're sitting there letting them gnaw. And it's not an injection like a venomous snake injection that you think. It's really, it's their saliva has a component in it that
soaks in.
That goes in. And so the faster you get them off, the least likely you are to have any kind of problem with it. But some people can have a problem with it. So it is one of those things that we do warn people, especially with small children. The other reason it's not going to be as big as a ball python is there are states that you cannot legally own a Western hognose. Colorado, we will not be able to vend in Colorado because we could. I mean, we go take our other snakes, but we can't even vend hognose in Colorado. Missouri, you have to have special licensing.
Missouri would be difficult.
You know, even when we went to Texas, we had to have a special license just for the hognose. And so
you kind of have to pick a bundle of states you want to choose to go sell in, because if you're buying permits in 10 different states, that can
it gets pricey. It gets pricey
quite a bit.
And
it's a heck of a pitch you have here to entice me into that world, man.
I don't want everybody in on it. I mean, you know, it's
right? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, downplay it all. That's what you do.
I really don't. I mean, we've known so many ball python people to buy into it, and I want them all to be successful. But ball python breeding is a walk in the park compared to hognose breeding. I
was going to ask. Tell me about the differences. Like, what's the cycles and the planning?
That's a little bit on the easier side because we put them all in brumation for 2.5 months. So they're all chilled down for 2.5 months. We're not doing anything with them. And then we bring them out of brumation. We start immediately feeding and then pairing. But the thing is, females have been known. We've been lucky so far, but females will eat their mates. They're so much bigger than the boys that there was one female, she was close to 400 grams and her boyfriend is like 65 grams. She could swallow him whole. So I had to watch them closely to make sure that they had all the signs of wanting to breed, because I've known breeders to lose high-end males from getting eaten by the female. So that's a little bit concerning.
I'm messing with these things. I'm good.
A little bit concerning. And then
that'd be like us chasing down a 700-pound woman.
I don't want that either. No, I mean, sorry, that came out wrong. But I don't want my life to be in danger in pursuit of that activity. Is what I'm saying.
But females will also eat their own eggs, and so we're on heavy egg watch during this time of year because what they do, I don't feel like they eat them. There's a lot of notations out there like don't mess with them while they're going to get a prey drive and start eating them. I don't really understand that concept.
Spook them into eating their eggs.
I'm like, doesn't make sense to me. What I think happens when you watch these girls, they go into a trance. It's a weird trance when they're laying. They won't even know I'm in there pulling eggs out. They're zombies. And then as soon as they're done laying, I will go like check them and pull their last couple eggs, and they'll still be in the zombie state. But then all of a sudden they snap out of it like they see me. And then they're like voracious. They're running around trying to eat everything. And so I think what happens is the eggs are in the box with them for too long and they come out of that trance on their own. And then they just start kind of zooming around looking for stuff. They're stuck in this small lay box, small container with these eggs. And they're like, crap, I'm hungry. Well, look at this. They're obligate eaters. They'll eat anything. They don't care what it is. And they'll start shoving eggs down their throat and they'll eat a whole clutch. One of our big main girls last year ate her whole second clutch. I mean, I don't know how many were in there, but she always has like, 7 or 8, maybe, 9 in her second clutch. And I'm sure she shoved them all down her throat because her stomach was swollen.
To tie this back into dog breeding, that's why Frenchies are expensive. They're difficult to get pregnant. Difficult to have babies. You have to do a C-section. And so because of that, the hogs are a little higher dollar-wise because there is more involved.
Well, there's more involved and there's less people that are willing to deal with it. And so, as a breeder also, the babies start coming out in masses. I mean, you're not dealing with like little bursts of waves. It's in 2 months, and we've got another girl getting ready to lay, 3 more probably going to lay next week. We'll probably have 140 to 150 babies hatching in less than 2 weeks of each other. That's a lot to take.
There's wave number 2.
They'll double clutch. There'll be another wave. It won't typically be as big, but there'll be a whole nother wave of babies coming out. And so then you're looking at feeding 5, 6, 7 gram babies. And so that's a lot of intimidation to people that are used to feeding, a 60, 70, 80 gram ball python.
Yeah, you just throw it in there. Yeah. So well,
but I love it. I actually prefer it over the ball python. The ball python part that gets me going is the genetic complexity. That's what I thrive on, the like building something in my head, trying to find it on the internet. You know, has it even been produced? What would that look like?
Right.
Let me find the combos that make that up.
You get smaller number of chances too, because the clutch size is smaller.
But the hognose purely for me is the challenge of the whole breeding process, the getting those babies to eat, seeing these little micro worms turn into a snake, you know. I think each species is different, obviously. And that's the thing that I love, that there's a lot of genetics in the hognose too, but not to the level of the ball pythons, but there's a lot of color variations and some beautiful morphs that have been, you know, found and that are still being learned. I mean, there's so many things. Some of the biggest genes that we deal with right now were only discovered, you know, 6 to 10 years ago. So there's still
I was going to say, you probably, I don't know the hognose world, but I'm assuming much like ball pythons, we still don't know what all is out there. And particularly the recessive opportunities, because it's such a rare, you know, naturally occurring phenomenon. So I could see the excitement that way. I definitely am I'm a man of habit and consistency. So even when you said brumation, I was like, oh, I don't want to change what I do 2 or 3 months a year and then go back into another thing. Like, I like just here's what I do. And so I really enjoy
it's kind of nice though. Like, it happens during the holidays. And so it's just this break from,
that's okay. You know, that is cool. Yeah.
You know, pure hognose breeders, some of them brumate everything, like babies, subadults, adults. They'll shut it down for 2.5 months. They're not doing anything for 2.5 months.
Interesting.
So they take a huge break. Now, we don't get that kind of break because we have the ball pythons, but but the corn snakes and the hognose adults and subadults all go into brumation. And so then we're just still feeding babies. And so we take our load down by, you know, over half, if not more. And so that's kind of nice during the holidays and stuff. Yeah.
I see the challenges on the rodent math then, because that's the other thing. Mine is pretty consistent. Yeah, it'll I wouldn't say peak. It'll have a surge when the hatchlings come along for sure.
Yeah.
But you know, generally I can be pretty pretty predictable. Look at the Canadian with the Canadian with the jokes here. Yeah, I see it. Okay. He's got all the jokes. That's Kevin. We're good. Everything is fine. Tell us, we got a few minutes left. I have some family promises at the 90-minute mark, but tell us about the website. Is that one of the sort of build your own sites? Because it looks great. I was struck by it. It was wonderful to navigate. The information there is good. I want to tell, you know, I might even have to work out some sort of licensing thing, because I'm burn out of explaining care to people. I'm just going to give them your link and be like, here, click right there and go on. And I mean, I would do it anyhow, but you're obviously it's going to drive traffic to you. But tell us about the website. How'd you get that up and going, and who runs that? What's the story behind that?
We did it ourselves. It was a GoDaddy site. Before I knew what I was getting into, GoDaddy seemed to fit the bill of everything we wanted. You can do commerce on it, but I don't think we're going to use that avenue. I think we're going to keep that within the Husbandry Pro app. But our dream was to have just a splash page where it was like, here's who we are. And then the guides. We wanted to have all of our care sheets there. We still haven't done it yet, but we want to do some how-to videos. Just like this discussion here about what all it takes to do a hognose breeding and caring. We'd like to have kind of a synopsis on that. How to remove a hognose from you if you get bit. Little quick ones like that.
I'm going to make it attached to him and then peel it off of him, because I've been bit too many times.
But you're going to give him the, I was paying attention. You're going to give him the welt and the itch then, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, thanks. But no, we built ourselves, and I would love to do it again now that I kind of know what's going on. But we wanted it to stay simple, because the people don't go to web pages anymore. They're on Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah.
You know, for Google, it's something that itches at me. I do own properroyals.com, but there's nothing there if you go there. But I do want people to be able to, in Google searches, and I want to be able to sort of tweak the search engine optimization, that if somebody within 200 miles of me searches ball pythons, I would pay a little bit to Google to, you know, have a cozy little spot at the top of the page there. And I don't have that. I'm missing out on that.
And that we've discussed that, and that's something we want to implement as we get this growing is because in the dog world, I know of a dog breeder that actually uses that. And he says he pushes so much of his commerce comes back from Google searches in the areas that he posts in Texas, Tennessee, because he's local to Tennessee, and Florida. He said those are the hot spots. And so that's all he actually pushes it more out there. And he says he sells most of his stuff through Google.
I tell you what, I don't think people believe, nobody's actually called me a liar, but they do sort of like glaze over when I say this. I sell a ton still on Facebook with meta ads, Facebook and Instagram ads, and it's dirt cheap. It is. I have yet to not just make my money. I'll be totally transparent. I spend $15 a week. So if I sell one snake from that ad per week, clearly I'm selling stuff for more than $15. So yeah, and I've come to not only accept but kind of believe, until the day where I'm producing something that I'm truly just known for, or that's truly unique, or that's groundbreaking, or like you said earlier, hasn't been produced yet, I need every angle I can get. And so if I need to play the marketing game better and learn that, guess what? That's what I had to do when I was slinging chicken tenders and steaks, just like every other restaurant down the boulevard, and obviously service goes with that, and branding and getting your name, people familiar with your brand. But anyhow, that's kind of I have a bit of an itch to get that in order. And so how does the funnel work? People go to your webpage, and then do you list your animals for sale on the webpage, or it's click here to Husbandry Pro or to Morph Market?
Yeah, Husbandry Pro carries pretty much, we have the storefront set up on there. So that's got just most of everything that we have for sale. Now we have to update it because I don't push everything into storefront until I'm ready. And then Morph Market is kind of after that. We'll push stuff to Morph Market, but we don't put everything on Morph Market, but we'll have everything listed on our Husbandry Pro store. We've had a lot of animals sell just through that. And
again, I don't have the experience on it. The public can, obviously, you don't have to be a Husbandry Pro user to see the Husbandry Pro. That's hard for me to say, for some Husbandry Pro user to access another person's store.
And that was the other main point of the website, was so it would push people to the Husbandry Pro store.
Yeah. And a lot of times people like on Instagram will put a reel out or something like that. And then somebody will private message us like, what do you have for sale? We'll just put our link to the Husbandry Pro store, and they'll go straight to that. And they're like, okay, that's what I want. This is what I want. And so it's just, it just kind of gets them into that avenue. I don't, right now it's still getting through Husbandry Pro, store. Like if you're trying to look through all the stores, it's not the same kind of navigation as Morph Market. So if we push them to Morph Market, well, they can start searching for the other stuff and then find another breeder, and then they're gone, and so if they're using our Husbandry Pro store, they're probably going to stick with us. And so that keeps us from putting them into another avenue that could just find the same animal or something closer or something different all of a sudden, and kind of almost like distract them, like what happens at shows with people sometimes.
Oh yeah. Well, and I equate it to a shopping mall. There's the benefit of getting people in the door because they'll come across my kiosk, but then they could be at my kiosk and they could see a big flashing sign for sale over there that they're like, oh, I got to go check that out. So yeah, there's always that balance of, or I don't even know if it's a balance that, you just got to navigate those waters that way. What was I just had something at the front of my mind. Maybe it was that. So what's so if I suppose I could just go look at your store, but if I go look at your store on Husbandry Pro, it's not, the user doesn't realize that there's other stores connected, so to speak. Like they don't realize that there's other shops in that mall.
You can go back into the Husbandry Pro main site area and then search within stores, but it doesn't quite have the same push as when you go filter in the Morph Market and you find those genetics that you want, and you into those areas. And so I think they're trying to adjust it a little bit, but I kind of like that it just kind of almost keeps them, it almost looks like our own storefront.
You're on your own compartment versus, I got you, versus a booth at a market. Yeah. Okay. I got you, man. Hey, we packed in a lot. You guys were great. We packed in a lot. I do, like I say, I do the kind of the 90 minutes and we're there. But I want to say thanks for being on. You guys got to come back again. And I won't, I feel like we could go for a little while, but in the meantime, where can people see you both in person next, but where can they find you on the internet as well?
The internet, are probably easiest is on Instagram, Herpin Harbins on Instagram. That's probably our easiest connection. We follow our messages pretty closely there. Yeah. And then we don't have any shows planned until June, I think, here in town. But then we will be at Daytona. That's our biggest show.
Oh, cool.
And so that's our one that we look forward to every year.
We're going to go back to Dallas.
We'll be back in Dallas, and then we will be at Tinley in October. If I can beg and plead to my father-in-law to give us a quarter of one of his tables, we might vend. Otherwise, we'll be helping them and just running around like headless chickens. And so,
gotcha.
My birthday weekend, so it'll all be good no matter what.
Oh, nice. There you go. This could be the year to snag a table if you got something other than ball pythons. You know, if they have their crackdown.
Yeah,
we leaned on them last year.
Yeah, we put application in last year, and of course we pushed this Dallas thing, so now we're there too. And then we did make a specific mention, like Western Hognoses. Like I wouldn't even bring any of the ball pythons if they didn't want me to. If we could bring our Western Hognose, because we have some potential, some cross our fingers Swiss chocolate, which is one of the higher end imported Hognose that are not very common.
That's what somebody was talking about. Yeah, I saw a comment about it. I was like, I don't know what that means.
Cross our fingers that we hit that this year, because we've got eggs in the incubator right now. And so that would rocket us up kind of on the higher level with the Hognose. Although we have everything, we breed normals all the way up to whatever we can get. We like a lot of the morphs. And so we would love to be able to just set literally a corner of a table up at Tinley. So.
All right. Well, I look forward to seeing you down the road. So I will see you in October at Tinley then.
Definitely.
All right. Perfect. Well, if we don't cross paths before then, I'll look forward to it then. Yeah. But definitely maybe at the end of the season or heading into, right after you put the snakes down for brumation, you got to come back again and come hang out. Stick around in the green room for just a second when we sign off. But thank you all very, very much for being here. Everybody, I'll see you Thursday morning with Joe on Proper Cup of Joe. I'm off for a couple weeks until the Eau Claire Snake Discovery show. I'll be there in 3 weekends. And next week on the show is Vanessa Conquest from NARBC social medias. Go check out Herpin Harbins and take care of these sponsors. They keep me coming back for more, just like you guys do. So thank you all very, very much. See you at the same time and the same place next week. Cheers, everybody. Thank you all.